All right, I finally got myself unmuted. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this second pandemic Zoom Christmas Eve. I chose Angels We Have Heard on High because I think a lot about that hymn and Lynn Unger's poem. I'm guessing that those angels that bent towards the earth and sang the news of the coming of the baby Jesus had to sing a whole lot before they got anybody to pay attention. I pictured a very frazzled group of angels flitting from one group of people to another, saying some variation on, "Behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people, for there is born to you this day a Savior. Behold, hark, yo, is anybody listening?" I'm fairly sure that is how it must have happened, because people 2,000 years ago were not that different from people today. And most of the time, we are simply not paying enough attention to things like annunciating angels. We are way too busy with other things to look up, to notice the subtle rustle of wings, and to hear the shimmery voices. Now, I'd like to illustrate that contention with a story about Pepper, a rescue dog of ours now departed. When we first adopted Pepper, he was one sorry dog. He had been passed from home to home, neglected in all, abused in at least one. He was a quivering mass of canine issues. He was terrified of most people, but extremely subservient out of fear. And in classic style, he took out his anger on those he thought he could whoop, other dogs. He was what we call dog aggressive, and this made for some interesting morning walks. One morning, I passed a woman walking a ridiculously cute and enthusiastic little puppy, one of those puppies who just knows that everyone in the world is going to be delighted to meet him. Pepper was not. Pepper saw not a cute and friendly creature, but somebody he could, if allowed, beat up. Now, we were working on having Pepper sit and let other dogs walk by without hackling, lunging, barking, and snarling. I got him to sit, but then this silly puppy came bounding toward him, unaware of the danger, and Pepper took off, taking me by surprise. As I flew across the street, holding on to his leash for dear life, I was saying firmly and kindly, "No, Pepper, leave it, sit, leave it." Pepper gave one final desperate lunge as the woman and her puppy hurried away, and I lost my balance and fell in the middle of the street. At this point, I was so frustrated that I yelled at the top of my lungs, "Darn it, Pepper, will you sit down and shut up?" Pepper looked back at me in great surprise, wondering no doubt what I was doing sitting in the middle of the street and not accustomed to hearing that tone of voice from me, his savior. Then he calmly sat down and stopped barking, and the look on his face, I swear, translated as, "Oh, were you talking to me?" That's how it really goes with annunciations. We are given glimpses of truth, but we either don't notice them at all, or we assume they're not really meant for us. One year long ago, Martin Luther gave a Christmas Eve sermon, and he used as his text the verse from Luke about the angels speaking to the shepherds. Luther emphasized over and over again the importance of realizing that those angels were in fact talking to us, to you and you and you and me. I quote from Luther, "He does not simply say Christ is born, but to you he is born. Neither does he say, I bring glad tidings, but to you I bring glad tidings of great joy." This is what is meant by Isaiah 9:6, "Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. To you, to us is born and given this child." Oh, were you talking to me? Yes, indeed. In biblical theology, angels are messengers. They're not guardians. They don't have or need halos or wings. Angels are messengers, and in one guise or another, they come to all of us. The Christmas story, retold year after year, is a mythic story. I'm pretty sure it contains not one iota of factual data, but as a myth, it is a bearer of truth on a deep and complex level. It is a story that we need to hear year after year because it is talking to us. Just as the pagan solstice celebration reminds us every year that after darkness comes light, so the Christmas celebration reminds us that after despair and weariness comes hope and promise. It is not a story about the journey of one family long ago. It is a story about us and our struggles to bring to birth the sparks of divinity that we carry inside each of us. It is the story of our journey. It is not a story about shepherds long ago experiencing visual and auditory hallucinations after having spent too many nights isolated and cold. It is a story about all of us straining to receive the message that the universe is trying to communicate. As Lynn Unger said, the shepherds wanted directions, a purpose, some sense of how the story might end. And all they got, all any of us ever get, is an intimation of a glorious truth just at our fingertips. An annunciation could happen on our watch. It is not a totally ridiculous idea. Those long ago shepherds, mythical though they may be, did not expect any intimation of glory on that particular night during their night watch. But as the story goes, they were ready to hear, willing to receive, and eager to respond to a most unlikely message from a host of unlikely messengers. It could happen on our watch. And that possibility should be enough to sustain us, to keep us telling the stories and singing the songs and joining the chorus of grateful people who sing on this night and every other night some form of Gloria. And now at this point in the service, I want to suggest that you switch to gallery view, dim your lights, and maybe light that candle that we suggested you have close by. I'm going to attempt to light mine. Take a look at all the people in our virtual congregation and their candles. Light a candle in the darkness and you pierce the gloom. Light a candle in the shadows and love fills a room. Light a candle mid a sadness and stars come to birth. Light a candle on Christmas Eve and you mingle heaven and earth. And now continue to hold your candles visible on the screen as we sing Silent Night.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Have a safe and happy Christmas and a healthy 2022.